We've officially passed the 1/3 mark of the regular season. In this video, we'll provide cash lineups on the main slate for week 7 on DraftKings and FanDuel, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lay.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants. Eric, the scores came down to earth a little bit this week. We saw a little more reality in fantasy sports. I think we're going to see more of that, especially with buys and injuries and things like that. But we had some winners. Should we show some winners right away?
Sure.
All right. Well, this week, week 6, this last week, you can see that Matt Garrett took the tape with a nice solid win. Just behind him, our host Mick Lister, Rob was in there with number 2, and then Tom Latendry, I think we've seen in there before with a solid number 3. You might see some of the guys we talked about in their lineups. So congratulations to all of them. For those of you who are wondering what we're talking about here, this is a free contest. Look at the description for how to get into this contest so you can win some money. It's really a great contest that DFSHub is putting on.
All right, so let's talk about some of the key guys that we like for week 7. And we're going to do a lineup for DraftKings and FanDuel, but there are 4 players that we are labeling core players that we have in our cash lineups on both slates. And the first one is one of my boys. That's right, Michael. Let's break out the Seahawks. A lot of Seahawk love this week. Why? Because they're at home against those Arizona Cardinals that does not have James Conner, does not have Kyler Murray, and does not have Budda Baker. You know what? I got to include myself in this. In the offseason, I was really worried about Zach Charbonnet taking a large part of the role away from Ken Walker. That's simply not happening. In the last 4 games, he has averaged almost, he being Ken Walker, 20 touches a game. And now he faces the Arizona Cardinals, who are 24th against the run, 30th against running backs. He's a big home favorite, 7.5 points. Home favorite, so definitely game script is on his side. He's $7,000 on DraftKings and $8,800 on FanDuel. It's a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but I like him on both sides.
Yeah, he's actually the second most costly running back on FanDuel this week, and rightly so. And quite a bit cheaper than Eckler. I think that Eckler's too expensive. He's going to have a big week. He's getting more and more usage. Pretty excited about him. And to go with him, we got to get Cooper Kupp this week with the options that you have at wide receiver. You got to get that number 1 target in the league guy, Cooper Kupp. He's came out with a bang right after his stint on the IR. He's the man, right? With Kyren Williams out, he's the place to go against a Pittsburgh defense that has been porous, especially in the defensive backfield. Even on the run, they have been. But Cooper Kupp's who you get the ball to, even for short yardage plays. He's just so good against the zone. He can break man-to-man coverage, and Matthew Stafford has so much so much confidence in him. So he's 9,700 on FanDuel and 9,500 on DraftKings.
I think people forget that it was just last year. He was the number 1 overall pick in a lot of drafts, if not number 2 behind Jonathan Taylor. And look, the only reason he wasn't last year is he got hurt right before. Otherwise, he would have been picked very early. He's proven he's healthy. I mean, in just 2 games, you thought he'd come back slowly. He's led the Rams in targets, in receptions, in receiving yards. And he faces the Pittsburgh defense that's 25th against the pass. Love that pick, Michael. And another guy who I might say is on DraftKings is $3,000 cheaper, but he is also a clear number 1 wide receiver, is Marquise Hollywood Brown from the Arizona Cardinals. He is facing the Seattle Seahawks 28th ranked pass defense. Look, in 4 of the last 5 games, he has averaged double-digit in targets. In 3 of the last 5 games, he has hit the end zone. So last week, he played through an illness. I think he's going to be 100% this week. I love his price. $5,300 only on DraftKings and $6,700 on FanDuel.
Yeah, and who we want to pair with him is another bargain, a guy who's got a good matchup on the road, but a favorite against an Indianapolis defense or Indianapolis team that no longer has their star quarterback. Looks like he may be out for the season. That's Anthony Richardson. It's Jerome Ford. Yes, it's the guy who gets all the carries, not the guy who may get a couple of the passes along the way. He's 6,600 on FanDuel and 5,100 only on DraftKings. Nice little bargain there. Going up against Indianapolis, who has been, let's see, 26th against 26th ranked defense, 22nd against running backs on FanDuel. He's when you saw what he had a couple of tough matchups in a row there, including against the Niners, which he was still able to dispel with 84 yards rushing. He's getting lots of touches, 15 plus carries in a lot of those games, and he's averaging 4 targets a game as well. So even though Kareem Hunt is there, he's still getting involved in the passing game. Got to get at this price Jerome Ford into our lineup.
And here's hoping that Deshaun Watson's expected to be back, and it will force teams not to just stack the box all the time and respect the Browns' ability to pass. Could be good news for Ford. All right, these 4 guys are in both lineups, but the question is, how are we going to fill out the lineups? Let's start on FanDuel main slate week 7. All right, you can see that we only have 28,200. That's an average of under $6,000 a player. So we have to be somewhat economical about the rest of our guys. Let's fill out the last running back spot. And it's amazing. I don't know how much longer that this guy is going to stay $6,500, but let's take advantage while he is. Jonathan Taylor. We already got Cooper Kupp, who probably was the number 2 overall last year in the draft. Jonathan Taylor was number 1. I know because I picked him and I was sorry for it all year. But look, $6,500 is too cheap, and I fully realize he's got a terrible matchup facing the Cleveland Browns and their very difficult defense. But here's the deal. In his first game, you can see that he had only 7 touches, but last week he had 13 touches. So he's going to continue to get more involved. Remember, he's a happy camper now. They've kissed and made up over there in Indianapolis. I see no reason why he doesn't continue to improve and get more and more involvement. And I think the new quarterback, Gardner Minshew, is good news for Jonathan Taylor because Anthony Richardson stole so much attention on the ground, especially around the goal line. So happy to get Jonathan Taylor at $6,500. And let's get some exposure at wide receiver into one of the highest scoring game on the main slate, Kansas City and the LA Chargers, in the form of Rashee Rice at $5,600. Look, he has established a consistent presence in the passing game. He's averaged 4 receptions in the last 4 games, and he's got a tremendous matchup here facing the team, the LA Chargers, who have not been able to stop anybody in the passing game. Dead last in the past, dead last against wide receivers.
All right, so just a couple of things to add to that. I really like these picks. I think Jonathan Taylor's floor is all of a sudden nice and high. The upside is there. I know the Cleveland defense is very tough, and so that that does pose maybe a little bit of limit on the upside, but the floor again is there. And then Rashee Rice. I mean, I think it's one of the frustrating things in Kansas City wide receivers is that it's definitely Travis Kelce or other. But Rashee Rice, I think, has a ton of upside, and you got to get somebody out of this Kansas City team, and we can't afford Travis Kelce, not with this lineup. Let's get Rashee Rice in there going against that worst defense against the pass.
We can't afford Travis Kelce, but let's see at what guy we can get at tight end. And, you know, this is the time where you have seen us kind of go on the big cheap, right? Looked at Zach Ertz at $5,000. Looked at Luke Musgrave. The guy is facing the best team in the world to face the Denver Broncos, who's the worst defense and the worst against tight ends, if you want to save the money. But I'm going to spend the extra $1,000 to get Darren Waller in the lineup at $6,000. He, by the way, has an almost as good a matchup as Musgrave, facing the Washington Commanders, who've been terrible against the pass this year. They got real problems in their secondary. And of course, Waller is by far the best receiver on this New York Giant team. Just look at his involvement that he has had, having 7 or more targets in 4 of the last 5 games. I don't see why they do not get him in. One thing I do not understand, Michael, from Waller's Raider days, this guy is a goal line presence. He's someone that you can target near the end zone. He's yet to get a touchdown, which is amazing. I think part of that is the New York Giant offense. I want to get you in right here. What do you think of the Waller pick?
Yeah, so Giants offense has been atrocious. It's been really frustrating. You know, as someone who picked Darren Waller in one of my leagues and thought that he had a ton of upside because he really is one of the best pass catching tight ends, and the Giants are very reliant on him. And so as frustrated as I am by the inability to get him the ball as often as he's targeted and as often as he should be targeted as the number one guy there in the Giants, I think the upside is too big. They priced him a little bit lower than I would have thought, especially in FanDuel. And so, hey, if we can afford to get a tight end that has real upside, and some of these other tight ends you mentioned just don't have that upside, let's put him in the lineup. So as frustrated as I am about Darren Waller and the New York Giants usage of him, I like the upside. So I'll let you have it.
Oh, you're too kind, Michael. I figured you'd love him. He's your guy. Well, used to be your guy. At quarterback, again, if you want to go on the cheap, you could probably get a better quarterback that I'm getting, but I want a guy that can give me a solid floor. And I think the definition of that at $6,700 is Matthew Stafford. Look, guys, he's just too cheap given his weapons and given the matchup. He faces a Steeler team that has struggled so far this year against the pass. The Rams look good. They're at home, and now having the Nakua and Cup to throw to, as well as Tyler Higbee, doesn't give you much on the ground, right? And you saw the guy right underneath him, Joshua Dobbs. And some people are going to prefer to go with him. That's fine if you want to go that route. But for his floor, I like Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting a little bit to go with Dobbs, especially with Marquise Brown in the lineup there. There's a little bit of a double dip there, but Dobbs only really has that one target with the upside, where Stafford, especially with Kyren Williams out, I think is going to rely on the pass. So what he's been doing consistently is his floor this week against a weak passing defense. So I like it.
No worries. We got a double dip with Cooper Kupp. Not that we look for it in cash, but if we think we got a good bargain, we do. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's look at defenses, and you can see the suspects there. We got 3 candidates, and I'm going to choose the New York Giants. They are at home. They're actually only 2-point dogs here against a Washington team that, quite honestly, has been Jekyll and Hyde this year. They have looked really good, and then they have looked really poorly. One thing that has happened multiple times this year is that you've been able to force some mistakes out of this particular offense. I like this. I'd much rather have this than either of the other 2 defenses that we could have afforded, facing Kansas City and Seattle on the road. Your thoughts about the Giants?
Yeah, just real quick. It's the matchups, right? I think the Chargers are by far the best of these three defenses. They've been able to rush the passer better than any of them. The Giants really struggled early on, but they've cleaned that up a little bit, and the matchup just bodes a little bit better for them. So I think a little bit higher floor and actually more upside as well with this pick.
Full disclosure, I'll just talk about if you click on the Giants, I think they may be dead last. Am I right on that? Let's go to the summary. I think that they're dead last. Yes, 32. Unfortunately, there are only 32 teams in the NFL in sacks. Not something that I particularly like to have, but I do think I'm going to err on the matchup. And as we've preached many times on this show, we simply are not going to pay up high for a defense, given the volatility of defense.
Yeah, now let's just add to that. They have had one of the toughest schedules in the NFL thus far to date. And so this is one of their best opportunities to score for you on fantasy defense. So we'll see. Again, compared to the other two, this is the one I like most.
It's kind of a giant leap to make. That they're. Never mind. Let's go to DraftKings.
Great. So Eric, we got our lineup set partially, and we have 23,000 remaining on DraftKings, where you don't quite have as much money to your name. $4,620 per athlete, so can't quite spend as much, but we're gonna spend a little bit more at the running back position, and it's because he's priced a little bit lower here on DraftKings and is getting involved so much, especially related. It's Josh Jacobs at 7,400, going up against that Chicago Bears defense, who has been really poor against the run, 29th against running backs, and then look what he's just done. He is getting really almost the most touches in the league. He's ramping up. I think he had almost 30 touches against the New England Patriots, and that's because the Raiders have won as he's gotten those additional touches. I think they got the memo. They realize they have to use this guy both in the running game and the passing games if they want to win football games. He's really the key to their offense, and he's got a great matchup against these Chicago Bears. So I think with the usage that he has, this price tag is too low for the floor and the upside that he brings. And we'll pair with him at the wide receiver position. We gotta save some money. So let's go all the way down to $4,000. A guy who got nicely involved in the Thursday night game. It's Curtis Samuel going up against the New York Giants. He's getting in the end zone. He gets the key targets right around the end zone. He's averaging, almost five targets a game. And he's at this price tag. I don't know how we can't, I don't think we can get a guy with comparable floor. And really, some upside as well as they use him around the goal line. So I think this is a nice matchup. That New York Giants defensive backs, the only reason they're not further down the list in terms of ranking is because they've had so many pass interference calls to kind of prevent the plays from being completed. They've started to clean that up. And I think that bodes well for Curtis Samuel. So I like getting him in the lineup. What do you think of these two picks, Eric?
I like them. So one of the reasons I think that the Giant pass defense looks better than it is they have fallen way behind in a lot of games this year, which has caused their opponent just to run the ball more. So I think their pass defense is definitely below average. I think that benefits Samuel. The Commanders like to get the ball in his hands. They will give him a carry, every now and then as well. And it's usually high value carries somewhere near the end zone. $4,000 is way too cheap for Curtis Samuel. I was at the Allegiant Stadium this past week. I got to see this Josh Jacobs firsthand, and I was just amazed how I kept hearing his name over and over and over again. He's gotten 25 touches, 25 touches, and 27 touches in the last 3 weeks. To say that the Raiders see him as a focal point of his offense is an understatement. However, Michael, I have noticed his yards per average, is not even very good for a GPA. You can't get into many UC schools this way here. 3.1, 3.5, 3.4. But he faces Chicago, like he said, is against 28th against running backs. Also a Chicago team that does not have Justin Fields. So I think that their offense may have trouble sustaining drives, being led by an undrafted rookie. Love the Josh Jacobs pick. Explain to me, as a Raider fan, sometimes they go nuts and use him in the passing game a lot, which is so important on DraftKings, a full PPR. Any rhyme or reason to this, 2 receptions, 8 receptions, 5 receptions, 3, the up and down in his involvement in the passing game?
Yeah, no, I mean, Josh McDaniels just really frustrated me as a play caller and a head coach. I thought he was so impressive, when he was in New England. I think there's some question there. Obviously, Josh Jacobs, if you guys followed him in college at Alabama, he was a wide receiver with running back ability. So this is his strength. Getting him involved in the passing game is very important. Part of it could be the Devontae Adams factor. I think the other part of it has just been play calling, and they're figuring it out. They're going to start getting him involved more. It paid him well off last year when he was involved. It'll pay him off against the Chicago Bears. So,
all right.
Okay, so at the tight end spot, if we had $8,000 available to us, we'd get Travis Kelce because he's just so valuable at the tight end spot. But the other guys who are close in price to him here on DraftKings don't make as much sense. We got to save some money because you got some really good options at a bargain. You kind of hinted at it when we were talking about FanDuel. Luke Musgrave at $3,300 going up against one of the worst defenses in the league against tight ends, one of the worst defenses in the league against the pass. The Denver Broncos have been horrible. Musgrave kind of has a little bit of rapport with Jordan Love. He's been targeted, as you can see there, an average of 4 or 5 times a game. And on most of those targets, Jordan Love is connecting with him. Got to get him in the end zone. It's time for him to get in the end zone this week to make that floor even higher. So at 3,300, let's get him in. And since we're talking about Jordan Love, let's give him a little bit of love. I got to be like Eric sometimes and use these puns. He's who I think we should go with on the quarterback front. Hey, look at the options right around his price. If we're, because of what we've spent at the other positions, we don't have enough to get the top guys. And furthermore, some of those guys are a little bit banged up. I don't know if you saw Josh Allen is a little banged up. I know he's been producing week in and week out. Do like the matchup that Patrick Mahomes has, but he's $8,300. At 5,800, who do we have? Well, Deshaun Watson, who may not play. Kyler Murray, really? Geno Smith, who Eric loves, but hasn't quite performed at that level yet. Daniel Jones probably isn't going to play this week. Let's get Jordan Love in there at 5,800. He looked pretty bad 2 weeks ago against the Raiders. Missed a lot of his throws. His passing completions was kind of low. That's his weakness, is his completion percentage. I'm thinking of a week off going up against this Denver defense is exactly what he needed. He should have Aaron Jones in the lineup to create a little bit of balance for him. He's going to get the ball to Musgrave. A couple of these wide receivers, I think his floor is going to look a little bit more like he's had in the earlier weeks when he ran the ball. That's something that he's done a little bit as well. And that's what, maybe we can get him in the end zone there as well. Eric, what do you think of these 2 picks?
Just incredible bargains, right? 5,800 and what was it? 3,300 for these 2 guys in just this tremendous matchup. How fun do you think Love and Musgrave had having a full week till 2 full weeks to look at film of the Denver defense?
Yeah,
How much
no,
do you think they watched the 70 points that Miami dropped on them? So,
yeah,
yeah.
it's exactly what they need right now.
So yeah, it's all about the floor. Do I think these guys are gonna, pop off with a huge ceiling? No, but given their price, I love their floor.
And to wrap things up at the defensive position, if you look at what options you have at even really less than $3,000, to see the Ravens head, poke up is quite nice. Really, the only team that scored handsomely, even in weeks where they've had tough matchups. The Chiefs are really the only one who've come close to scoring the same, and part of that's the matchups they have. And this week they're going up against the Chargers, who've been stingy against fantasy defenses. I know they're going up against Detroit, but Detroit is missing their number one back this week. So, that does help the Ravens out. They're a premier defense. To get them at $2,500. I know the matchup is tough. I think is a bargain. So, rare opportunity where we, who like to kind of focus on wide receivers and running backs for our upside, to have a defense who can really score points.
So we were in this spot last week, Michael, and we said, how could the Cleveland Browns at home, one of the best defenses all of football, be this cheap, DraftKings? And of course, the Browns were outstanding against the 49ers. It was all because they were playing the Niners. Well, here we go again. How can Baltimore, who's at home, who has had 4 sacks a game, folks, 24 sacks in 6 games. How can they be this cheap, DraftKings? I asked them again, or just don't ask. Just happily get them in your lineup. And unlike the Browns, who are actually underdogs against the Niners, the Baltimore Ravens are actually favored at home against Detroit.
Exactly. So, Eric, I know we got a few folks who scratch their head and ask why we don't spend a little bit more at the quarterback position and even at the defensive position, which in certain weeks have had a big impact on who wins in some of these contests. Again, this is cash lineup. We are going for high floor. We're getting that with the players that we get in the other positions. Yeah, we could throw in another bargain or two and take off a guy like a Jacobs out of this lineup, and maybe that would allow us to pay up for quarterback or pay up for defense. But we think the volatility is just too high at those positions compared to what you can get at these other spots. So, Eric, I think we got another strong lineup this week. Not sure we're going to get the 3 or 4 touchdowns that we got out of some of our common players in prior weeks, but let's hope so.
Cooper? Yeah, I got you down for 4. No problem. Okay, sorry. I was just finished with Cooper Kupp. He's confirmed 4 touchdowns. All right, Michael, can't believe we're 1/3 of the way through the season. Look forward to breaking down week 8 for you next week. Until then, take care, everybody. We'll put up on the screen 2 videos we think that you'll enjoy.